Welcome. I'm Alan Cohen, and this is the Quarantine Interviews. Today, I have a guest with me that has been in the music industry a long time. His name is Barry Heyman. He's a music and entertainment industry attorney and also an educator. Hi, Barry. Why don't you say hello to us? How are you today?
Hey, I'm good. Hi, Alan. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I guess obviously you're coming from your apartment, and of course, this interview is going to be about you, about your education, and how you work in the entertainment industry. And also, since you are so involved in the industry in a general and in a whole, I'd like to know how you think it's really affecting the industry at this point, and also your business. So, if you don't mind, why don't you give it a little background on, how you got into the business and a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, my name is Barry Heyman. I started off, went to NYU for music business. Grew up as a pianist, and decided I wouldn't make it as a pianist. Decided I might
Oh,
as well work on the business side of things.
okay.
So, I have a love for music and entertainment industry, and so I combined them. And there was a program at NYU, music business, is still there. And graduated. My first job out of college was at a company called Polygram Records, which is now merged with Universal Records. And I worked in their business affairs department. And so it got me on a path of exploring maybe getting a master's or a law degree. And so in the evening time, eventually I decided to go to law school and obtain my law degree from New York Law School.
Yeah.
Um, and so upon graduating, at that point, Polygram merged with Universal. My job relocated to LA, and I worked as a lawyer after law school at a company called Eagle Rock Entertainment.
Yeah.
And it put out a lot of concert DVD programming, as well as they had a couple of record labels, rock and heavy metal, and worked with some jazz and blues as well. And did that for a while. And then eventually went on my own. And so I've been on my own, in my own law practice since 2004. And I've consulted a variety of companies in between as well, some of the dot-coms earlier from the 2000s, early 2000s. But
You were working with companies then and how they got into it. And then when the bubble broke, were you helping
right.
protect them or watching them go in and out of business?
Yeah, I mean, I did work for one of the major company at the time called Razorfish Entertainment. They were Razorfish, and they were one of the fastest growing dot-coms. And so it was really interesting to see their growth and how it all turned out, though. And you know, uh, in that era. And so, eventually, like I said, I went on my own and started my own law practice. Um, Shortly thereafter, I decided to pursue teaching. I had a passion for it. I just thought it would be, a way to connect with future industry professionals uh, or, musicians as well. And so I was able to get an opportunity to teach at NYU, where I went,
Oh,
music law class with a professor, co-taught the class with a professor I actually had earlier. And fast forward a few years later, and I got an opportunity to teach at the Institute of Audio Research,
right. And that's really
and that's how you and I met. And
they said we have a new guy that's coming in, Barry Heyman. He wants to watch your class. You don't mind if he audits?
oh, that's right.
Or no,
Yes.
I audited your class actually. I think one of the
I, Actually, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, you audited my class, and I think I sat in on yours.
that's right.
Make sure I'm doing this okay.
That's right. And they asked me, how did he do? I said, well, he definitely knows his stuff. A little rusty, not rusty, but needs a little brush up on teaching itself.
Yeah,
But but you knew your stuff, and that's really the value of the IAR, which is the Institute of Audio Research
yeah,
at the time, is they were really trying to develop a great program to really teach about the music. We were in the music business side, not really the
yeah.
production side.
Right.
Really give the students the real stuff of the music industry, and that's how they
Yeah.
brought you in, being
Yeah.
an attorney and giving you a chance to also be an educator,
Right.
it was a great shot on their behalf because they knew how much you really knew about the industry.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really important aspect of teaching in this field is, not just knowing, it's important to know how to teach well,
You
which I'm learning and continue to do
always
because I
get better.
continue to teach.
Yeah.
It's another skill set, and so, but it's also important to work, I think, to have instructors in this field um, that actually do have hands-on experience and continue to do so. The industry changes so rapidly. So when we were there, they developed that entertainment business program, and I was there on the ground floor. And one of the most important aspects of it to me was obviously having someone that can communicate well, but also someone that was in the field. And we were lucky enough that we were in the heart of New York City to be able to bring in some professionals that were able to take time off in the middle of their day to teach. And so I did that, while also running my law practice. And then when an opportunity ended, unfortunately, the school, went out of business. And then I subsequently have taught.
Before we go further, let's just focus a little on this. First of all, you said you were working in the what was the name of it again? The program?
Oh, the MEMP, Music and Entertainment and Management Studies,
Right,
something
and
like
you
that, or
really helped.
production. Yeah,
You really
program.
helped spearhead that department. I
That's
mean,
right.
you
Yeah.
headed that department, correct?
Right. That's correct. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. That was the most amazing opportunity I could have ever asked for.
Yeah.
Here I am, only a handful of blocks away, living and have my own law practice. I was able to get my feet wet teaching one of the music business courses in the audio program. The course that you also were teaching, and then simultaneously being offered the opportunity to launch from the ground up and be the chairperson of an
Yeah.
entertainment business that really sat side by side with the audio program.
Right.
And I just really was, I thought it was such a unique opportunity, once in a lifetime, that I just needed to take it. Part of the reason why I chose to work independent in my law practice, quite frankly, is to be able to, what I call over the years, pivot for opportunities that may come up, that I just feel like is exciting to have an entrepreneurial spirit. So, whether it be during the .com in the early 2000s, or whether it be during this time, that be able to have an opportunity to launch a music business and entertainment business program at an audio school, was really what gets me excited, and so I really, and it was an opportunity for me to really, craft the program and in a way that I thought was going to be the most impactful and beneficial for students, and also to bring in the best colleagues that I could find, whether I knew them personally or not.
Yeah.
Really was really to provide the best education to the students.
Yeah, it was from being there. I was at the school for about 9 years, and I did teach a various from recording, production, sound, audio, all that, and also my forte was also in the music business. So I worked on you. It was a very successful program. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate that the school did close down. I believe they were in existence for 50 years as one of the first
Yeah.
schools kind, correct?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was the first. They were able to say they were the first audio engineering school in the world, and even many, even to this day, I meet people that graduated from there, um, you know, from decades before I was even there, that
Yeah.
have had amazing careers, that always were grateful and thankful for having had that institute be there. I met someone only a few months ago, an audio engineer woman, in her, um, somewhat retired now, she said, but she was one of the first female audio engineers in the field. And we were talking, I mean, so it just opens up opportunities for conversations and meeting all different types of folks that have had great careers from it. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, so leaving there, what happened? Obviously, you said you were running your own
Yeah.
business, private
Yeah.
practice. So you continue that. You just naturally just started continuing that when the other one closed.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I was able to like shift gears. When you have your own law practice, you depends on how proactive I want to be in business. Like anyone else, and any independent contractor, anyone that's out doing business. So I took a step back from running around, being proactive, trying to build my business, and just work with what I had, so I could focus on the school. But now that ended, I was able to kind of refocus more energy
Was.
into the law practice, which I was able to do, and get that back up to full steam, and just keep going and building that up. But I also, after about a year or two, I wanted to take a little rest, because it was a little chaotic. It was a lot of work, I will say, doing everything that we did there. But eventually I went up getting back into teaching again. I taught a course at the Hart School, an online course, a music publishing course,
Okay.
and I taught at Five Towns College out in Long Island.
You still out there? I mean,
I am out there, yeah. So, I mean, part of speaking of the quarantine interviews here, I mean, one of the things that's changed is that, and maybe for yourself, I believe, is that when you're teaching now, we teach remotely. So, while I had that experience a bit with the Hart School and using their software, I have to adjust, and also we all teach now remotely at Five Towns College. So. Um,
are you the head of the? Are you the chair of the department out there as well?
No, no. I just teach one course basically. I think for now I just find that that's a nice balance between you know doing my law practice and being involved with the
And it
school.
keeps you in. It keeps you in the education field at least.
Yeah, and you got to stay current. And so um, so there's everything's changing, and so it's another opportunity for us to talk about current events, and it's a lot to keep in mind. So yeah, and connect with not only students, of course, but also colleagues and other professionals such as yourself. And so there's really great people at that college that you know
So very world renowned, and also David Cohen. Is he still running it?
yeah, he is the president of the school,
President.
and he's the one that brought me
He was
into
brought in
IAR.
IAR. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But David Cohen was brought in to take over as president of IAR when we were there.
That's right. Yeah.
He went back from Five Towns, and then I guess he went back to Five Towns, or he was doing it simultaneously. I'm not really.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I think he had some time off from there, but then he went back, and
Yeah, and he's
he offered me once, as things changed at IAR, he offered me an opportunity to get involved with the school,
great.
and he's always provided me some great opportunities. So
Yeah, terrific. All right, so now you're back. At this point, you're back in operations, full steam on your private practice. Is that it? And what kind of clients are you representing at this point?
so basically it's a combination of my practice and teaching. Last year I did have a stint as a lawyer for a company as general counsel for a startup. It had been around for some time, but they were really kind of building some steam, and they wanted to bring me on originally as just you know part-time, and then it kind of grew into more full-time. And but I was able to still maintain a practice, but again a little bit more in a passive capacity. Um, but primarily now, yeah, it's the law practice, and my clients include creatives. It could be songwriters, music producers, independent artists, musicians, authors, sometimes photographers, designers, creatives. And broadly speaking, my roots were, have been in the music industry, but, entertainment business is fairly broad. So I work with some independent film matters and licensing. I work with not only, creatives, but also on the other side, the flip side, the business of it. So, independent music publishers, record labels, independent managers, personal managers, work with booking agency, headphone company, I do not only copyrights as well, but and trademarks, brand names, and logos. And so I protect some clients in the trademark capacity. So
USPTO. I
what's
know
that?
it well, the USPTO.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
So Barry, so you're the perfect man to speak to. Obviously, the main idea of this webinar right now is really to talk about how the COVID-19 pandemic is really affecting or impacting the music industry. So I'm sure a lot of your clients are calling up, Barry, I can't play anymore, or something's going on. How long will this be? Yeah, are you really seeing that? And how are you and some of your clients being impacted by what's going on? And, this whole
Yeah.
change of events for the world, but
Hmm.
mainly in our field, the music industry.
Right. So, yeah, definitely, pretty much, across the board. I mean, I have clients, let's say I represent an artist, a singer. I might not be focusing on handling a live performance agreement. Typically, like maybe themselves or their agent might do that. But I think of it more like historically, the music industry, was primarily the main revenue was records, and the tour promote the record sales.
Right.
It was like a promotional tool to
True.
help create sales. It's kind of like flipped, where like you create a record, you practically give it away, or you get pennies or micro pennies. You may or may not get paid much. And it really is a vehicle to get you on the road to get live performance income. I see, for many artists, it's,
Well, yeah, it's
it could be, what's that?
totally around.
Yeah,
Like,
it kind of like almost flipped, a bit for certain artists. I mean, you can definitely make some money on sync placements and things like that. But sales in and of itself or streams, might not amount to a livable, earnings and wage. So my clients, they get their some of their budget for legal from touring to to put together an artist collaboration agreement, to put together a producer agreement.
sure.
And when that runs out, then things get tight, for them to potentially afford to do that, because they don't have much income coming in.
Yeah.
There were a couple of projects that kind of were in the mix of me working on a matter, and it would evolve into something more, but they were, tight. So of course I'm going to try to be as accommodating as possible, to try to give as much of my time, during that weird period, where we were already engaged to do work. And they just couldn't afford to keep moving it along. And I just didn't want to not see it through. So I was able to guide some projects along, a bit as a courtesy, where I'll have to, I think, bend over backwards a little bit to try to help the next person out, and so that was my way of, and it's been my way of like just supporting the community
Yeah.
by and my clients
Well,
by.
the show's been obviously they've been canceled, and there's no projected date, even though they say 4 weeks, 3 weeks, the end of April, end of May. Have many of those performances, tours, or gigs been canceled
Yeah.
altogether, or they're being postponed, and saying August, and then just hoping that August is clear again. How is
Yeah, so I mean, I work. Yeah, that's yeah. I work with some, yes, some, a lot of other artists. Some, they're trying to just postpone so it doesn't get canceled, and then they move it out to a later date.
yeah,
Um, Unfortunately, certain events have occurred and or have were canceled, and they're not being postponed, like South by Southwest.
yeah,
I had a client that we spent a lot of time. It would be their first time really there on the ground, as a full band unit. Not as an official band for the festival, but performing wherever they could, just being on the ground, hired a team around them to get some gigs. And that just, that,
yeah.
and it was, I really feel,
To be for a band to have the opportunity to play at a festival like that is a great opportunity. Obviously, the
yeah, I mean,
excellent.
right. Yeah, I think, I really feel maybe really bad for the ones that are like really kind of on that cusp of really breaking, whether it's the right sound at the right time, whether it be their first time really venturing versus like an established artist that might have been South by 4 or 5 times and they're launching their second or third or fifth album, and it's another, another way to kind of go through the process. But for the ones kind of like, and maybe it just stalled, you know what I mean? Maybe the sound changes next year and they're not the hot artist, or something doesn't connect. I mean, I try not to focus on, some of the potential missed opportunities of not only music, but, I think of Fashion Week and things that come and go, and the up and coming designers that are really the hot ticket at the time. And I hope that they're able to continue that trajectory and it doesn't really just, go away for them.
Oh, that's a great point. I wasn't thinking about that, but that's so true, because fashion, art, entertainment, music goes in cycles of sound, what they're looking for. What's next.
Yeah.
Like,
and what's hot now might not be what's going on a year from now. And it's not, you know what I mean? I really feel bad for them because they can, as a fashion brand, any artistic endeavor takes off for whatever they're doing, that's really at the pinnacle, and they're really, connecting, and they can all, they can grow into something else. But if they miss that boat, and then maybe they won't, I hope they'll get it, continue to move it along, in some other way.
Really spot on. That's really.
Yeah. So, yeah, thanks. So,
yeah,
so those things have occurred, in terms of postponement, things have just generally been canceled. I have a client and colleague that runs a small booking agency. For a small agency, with a small staff that has no income coming in.
Yeah.
That, that everything is on hiatus, So that's how it impacts, like a small booking agency. Yeah. They're trying to book dates. I talk to my colleague regularly. He's like trying to book things for like the fall or 2021.
Yeah. Right.
So there's that. What else? Now shifting to a virtual tour, a virtual shows.
But how do you monetize that? That's the real question. A lot of
well, the thing is, you can monetize it. There are opportunities. There are different platforms that exist to monetize. But, when you're on the road as a starting band, how much are you really monetizing it anyway, with the hotels and the travel and everything? I saw one of those memes. It said, I calculated, I 20 canceled shows and I actually earned $243, so.
They did better by not going out.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's like, unfortunately, it's about exposure, as a starting band, that's the cost of being on the road. So, maybe you don't monetize the virtual experience, the live streaming experience, although you can, but maybe you can do some creative things and really get some promotional and connect with bands that you might not have otherwise been able to.
Yeah. I think what's going on in many industries at this point is just staying connected, because, God willing, it's going to be a brighter day, and hopefully the sooner than later. But either you fade out of the picture totally during this time and then have to build up all over, or like you're saying, somehow stay in the virtual world. Like even myself doing this, it's a way of me, talking to experts such as yourself, but staying in the picture, staying in the game. People see that I'm still giving information. I'm also an educator. I'm a performer too, and I run a couple of businesses. But people every day is seeing something else that, oh yes, he's doing what he can to stay, like you said, in front of people's faces or whatever.
Yeah.
So these bands, they shouldn't fade totally. So they may not be making money from these virtual performances, but they could still be building a following. And I read one of them, they asked, I think the guy from TuneCore, what's the best thing for, bands now? What should they do? And he said, release as much material as you can.
Okay.
Of course, they make money on the releases, but that's beside. Right. But it really is, keep your work coming out to people, so you're always still in, people's faces, eyes, and memory.
Yeah, I mean, people are, you maybe have a more captive audience now. People are at home, maybe, the music industry, thought streaming might go up, and then maybe, but now it's competing with like the Netflix and Amazon Prime and watching television. And so, you have limited time gaming and things like that. But yeah, there's some strategy. Like, do you want to wait, to put out, like, let's say an EP with the coincide with a tour? Do you want to, or do you want to just, put out the music now? There's just everyone, different bands or different artists are going to have a different take on it.
Yeah.
I think, and one of them is to potentially, yeah, put out music now. One band, we were going to do a remix, a dance remix, and then try to get some club plays and get on the dance Billboard charts. But then
There's
there's
no,
no club dates. And so we were like, we really can't. So we were like, okay, how do we shift gears? So instead of spending that money at South by Southwest, let's put that towards like a really good remix and a promotion team. But then there's no, club, to be playing, to be the songs we played at. So that kind of became another dead end. You know what I mean? So you got to really think a little, strategically here to make sure, how do you repurpose your money, or, if you have money here, how do you put yourself in different areas. So it's hard for some bands now to even get together to rehearse. So depending on where they're located. So, they were going to, do a virtual performance, and they couldn't even do that because they couldn't even get together.
yeah.
So, but I know bands that have not only done promotional live streaming, but also made $500-600. They were able to, they do takeovers of venues, live streaming. So they're not only just using their own platform, they've been utilizing other, venue platforms to expand their fan base that way. And
Right.
there's tip jars. So you can tip with Venmo or whatever, if it's within Twitch or whatever program or platform that they're using. There could be that component of it as well. I know another artist every night at 11:30 for an hour. She's doing like karaoke, and she just every hour, every night. And now it becomes routine. Now I'm programmed to know that at 11:30 at night, just and every time I look, there's about, a couple dozen or more people tuned in. Quite frankly, you know, I know she might have had gigs here and there, but I'm more in tune with what she's up to now,
Right.
and can feel more connected to her than I ever did before. You know what I mean? So I feel like,
Yeah. That's great. I'm just hoping that the internet doesn't go down.
yeah, then we'll.
I'm always on that other side. Yeah, I seem so positive, but the other side of me is saying, maybe this is a little bit bigger than one bat spreading a virus to like the
Oh,
entire
jeez.
world.
Uh-oh.
And,
It's not a conspiracy theory interview, right?
I don't want to do that right now, but there is a side of me, and that gets into, maybe it is a little
Yeah.
bit bigger, but we'll save that for another
Right.
time. The
I think at the end of the day, no matter how adverse the situation is, we'll find ways to connect. We'll find ways to try to stay positive. We'll find ways to be creative. We'll find ways to, to get through things. That's from what I've seen in history through, and what I'm experiencing now to some degree, and hopefully it doesn't need to go much further in this isolated, feeling. But I hope that, we'll get through this fairly soon.
Right. So only a minute left. Why don't you just give us a closing statement, closing advice, closing inspiration, whatever you like.
Well, I mean, let's start with advice. I mean, from a legal perspective, one of the things I've talked to my clients about, because they're always running around. I mean, this day and age, everyone's running around. You're running around. I can't imagine that people that are not working, not running around with their phone and teaching and
Working harder
reviewing.
now than I did before.
What's that?
I'm working harder now than I did.
Oh, working harder now too. Right. Okay. So, but I feel like we do have a place, like we're here. We can focus on our cleaning up, like whether it be spring cleaning, literally the time of year, and from a business perspective, spring cleaning. I deal a lot over the years, regardless of this situation, with clients that I've, said, oh, I put out 2 albums before. Oh, do you have a producer agreement? Did you get the musician releases? No. Well, I kind of envision them getting those files, those digital files now in order. Like all the collaborators, did get the paperwork in place. Did you register the copyrights in all the sound recordings?
Yeah.
Get that in place. Did you register the copyrights in the compositions? You have your split sheets. Do you have, and do you have it in an Excel sheet with the registration numbers, the date of registration? You're going to have reversion rights and all different things potentially down the line. You want to kind of take stock of what you have and make sure it's all clear. So this is an opportunity to kind of do some of that cleanup.
Yeah.
Not only register with the Copyright Office, as you know, we would register if you
Rates
wrote
just
songs.
went up. How dare they?
Yeah, they did. But still a value, still, an important step, I believe, and I'm sure you do too. And so register with all the PROs, meaning like if you're registered with ASCAP, all those songs, make sure they're properly registered, or BMI or CSAC. But not only that, but if you have the rights in the sound recording, the PRO on that side with Sound Exchange.
Of
So
course.
that's important. I don't know, a lot of clients and or people or artists that I come across don't necessarily go through that process, So
I've even heard of Sound Exchange. A lot of people. I mean,
right. So Sound Exchange. So I think there's a lot of that. That's the kind of advice that I've been talking to clients about, is making sure they get all their paperwork in place with all collaborators, producers, band agreements, or whatever, and all the registrations in place.
yeah.
What else? I mean, just making sure all your content, I mean, it's more of a marketing thing, but like making sure all your content on all your platforms is up to date, all your photographs, your bio is up to date. You can kind of clean up all that kind of stuff. Because I work with some of my clients, more than just legal, but like kind of like, helping them like artist development. So we look at those kind of things as well, making sure that all the branding across the platforms, and then maybe even taking older content, a music video snippet, repurposing it and utilizing it. There's different ways that you can just
Recycling things.
Recycling it, exactly. Repurpose, recycling it, all that kind of stuff. And then, from a, inspirational, I mean, and then lastly, I mean, just, you can also continue to collaborate. We can collaborate virtually with your, writing songs, maybe finding inspiration outside of music, maybe thinking about maybe having a different perspective on it. Like, maybe whether it be art, drawing, writing, just literary writing, maybe whatever inspirational things that can kind of loosen up some artistic expression in music. That doesn't have to necessarily be music. People get inspired or can be inspired to create from other, artistic areas. So, I mean, in terms of inspiration, I mean, one of the things that I talk to my colleagues about and my clients is health and wellness as well. Physical health, some are continuing to do 10,000 steps and they're walking on a rooftop of an apartment building or in their apartment or going up and down stairs.
Kind of like that, running around the apartment 100 times.
Yeah, just walk a lot in circles, and then turn around and do the other way.
Wow.
So you're 10,000 steps in.
So all right. So to wrap this up in a way, you're saying, clean up your business side, clean up your artistic side, clean up your personal side as far as physical. And of course, if that's all in place, then you could keep your mental stability in place too, because that is thing that's affecting a lot of people too, is, mentally they're stuck in the house or whatever it is. So
connecting with people, you could pick up a phone and connect with people, meditate. You can go internal too. I mean, there's so many resources out there for people to connect, like for meditation, virtual meditation groups. And, you can learn a new skill. You can learn to cook, and maybe you'll be inspired to write a song about it,
Terrific. Well, Barry, I'd like to thank you very much. Once again, our guest is Barry Heyman. He's a music and entertainment industry attorney and, of course, educator. You gave us great words of wisdom and advice and really an insight into the music world itself. I just want to thank you so much. And,
You're welcome.
really, God bless you too. And, I wish you and your family well and to be safe and, you
Yeah.
know, and all that stuff. We just wish you well.
Yeah. Thank you, Alan. Thanks for having me. And, you know, likewise, I mean, I think you're doing a great service here. And so, well wishes to everyone out there as well.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay.
The Quarantine Reports featuring Barry Heyman.